good evening, or maybe it's good afternoon or good morning. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
Hello, hello. How you doing?
Not too bad. Are you ready for another English class?
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. Excellent. Do you know what
What
we're
are you,
talking
by the
about
way?
today?
What are you? What is that behind you? Is it at the TV or?
Yeah, it's a TV.
Okay. The class is about weather.
Yeah,
Meteorology, my favorite topic,
meteorology. Why is that your favorite topic?
because I'm a pilot.
Oh, I see. Yes, I can see why it's very important. Yeah, if you don't get that stuff right, it can cause problems, especially in smaller planes.
Yeah, for sure.
How long have you been a pilot?
Well, I just finished my career, so I'm
You
looking
retired.
right now. No, 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 no. My career, my studies. I'm 20 years old.
Well, when you say you completed your career, that means you've retired, you're finished.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. How can I say I finished my studies or I finished my
I just graduated from flight school.
graduated? Okay, I just graduated from flight school.
That's awesome. I love flying.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you planning to buy an airplane in the future, maybe?
I looked into it, but then when I realized how much effort and everything it was involved, I thought, you know what, it's better to just buy a ticket.
Maybe you can take a flight lesson.
Yeah, I thought I was actually going to become a pilot, and I looked into the cost of becoming a pilot, and I thought, well, it'd be great to fly to my destination. I'd still need to rent a car, and I thought, you know what, this seems like more work and more expensive than just buying a plane ticket. So that's why I didn't get into it. But yeah, meteorology is a fascinating topic, and we're going to definitely talk about that today. Oh, we've got the Raphael twins in class. We got two Raphaels. This is going to be interesting. Hi, Raphael.
Hi, teacher. How are you?
Good, Raphael. Where are you from?
I'm from Brazil, Porto Alegre.
Okay, so we've got Raphael with an F from Brazil and Raphael with a PH.
Nice.
So we'll
Nice.
have to listen carefully so I know which Raphael we're talking to.
Yes.
Oh, class is filling up now. I see all the regulars are coming in, and we have Noelia. Welcome back, Noelia.
Hi,
How was your day?
my day was good actually. Thanks for asking.
Excellent.
How was yours?
It wasn't too bad. Today was good. I got a good night's sleep. Um, Relaxed a little bit. Actually, did a lot of relaxing. Spent some time with the wife and the baby. And taught a class. So busy but relaxing day.
Glad to hear that.
Thank you. And next to you we have Ivan. Welcome back, Ivan. I think Ivan's from Bogota.
Hi,
How are you, Ivan?
hi, how are you? I'm okay, thank you.
Good, good. Welcome to class. And we have
Thank
Antonio.
you.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks, Antonio. Where are you from?
I'm from Argentina, but I live in Mexico. I have been in Mexico the last 4 years.
Which do you prefer, Mexico or Argentina?
Depend. I miss a lot Argentina, my culture, my friends, my family, but
Yeah.
I love Mexico. The people are really nice, and in Argentina we have a lot of problems, social problems, economical problems. So
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying where you're
we
living right now.
have a good friends. Me too.
All right, and what's the weather like in Mexico right now?
Well, right now I really don't know because I am in Los Angeles now. Because
You just said you're in Mexico.
yes, I have been in Mexico the last 4 years. I live there, but my university in Mexico support me to visit an veterinary hospital in Los Angeles. So I'm here, and I am feeling so bad with my English for the reason I started in Berlin.
Okay, well, welcome. We're going to talk about the weather today.
Okay.
One of the top topics of conversation for small talk is the weather, as I just started, right? So we talk about the weather quite a bit. What's the weather like? As I asked Antonio, is it hot? Is it cold? Did you guys get snow? Is it raining in the mountains? But then we'll be watching the
Here is
news
so
and we'll
nice.
hear about a tsunami or hurricane or tornado. So I want us to be able to talk about lots of different types of weather. We're also going to be talking about weather in the past, weather in the present, and weather in the future. Okay? So that's what today's class is all about. So let's start with Raphael and say, Raphael, what is the weather like where you are?
Are you talking to me?
Oh, actually, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to start from the right to the left. So I'll start with Raphael with a PH. Raphael with a P. What's the weather like where you are?
Well, it's getting cold because the winter is coming close and temperatures are dwindling. They are,
Decreasing.
yes, they are decreasing, and it's a nice weather. We are in fall. We're in fall right now, and for me, it's the best season of the year because it's not that cold. It's not that cold, and it's not that hot either. So it's a nice weather.
So Raphael, looking at this image that I just put up, how many of these images describe the weather that you have during the fall?
uh, I think the tree and the wind blowing uh, the tree image, the wind
Okay.
blowing, and the on the bottom some clouds because sometimes it's overcast. Uh, and that's it.
So you don't get a lot of rain?
No, it's not a rainy season.
Okay.
Sometimes
What about,
sometimes there is sun, so
okay. Do you ever get tornadoes?
no, we don't have tornadoes here.
Okay. What's the worst weather you've ever had?
Mostly on summer because when the days are very hot and the late afternoon it starts raining, but it's a strong rain. So
Okay. So what's the worst weather you've ever had?
the worst weather
What is the worst weather you've ever had?
uh, when when it's really hot, especially in summer.
Okay, so maybe you're not understanding the question. So I'm asking about the past, and I'm asking what is the worst weather you've ever had. So this is not dealing with probability. This is dealing with events that have happened in the past.
Okay. What do you mean about weather? What do you mean about the weather, the weather conditions, or whether you mean in a bad situation or something like this?
Well, let me ask you the question again, and then I want you to try to answer it for me. So the question is, what is the worst, right, weather you've ever had? Okay, so we're talking about the worst, we're talking about weather, and we're talking about it having happened in the past. I don't want to answer the question for you. I want you to arrive at the answer yourself. So we're not talking about bad weather, we're talking about the worst weather that you've experienced.
Okay, it was. Do I have to say or write?
Say it, please.
It was when I was on the streets and there was a huge rain. It's like it was a. It rained a lot, and it started a huge flood where I was. So I had some troubles to get home that day.
Excellent. Very good. Very well
Yes.
done.
Thanks.
All right, Raphael with an F.
Okay.
Can you describe what the weather is like in the spring?
In the spring, well, especially the nature becomes green and colorful. So you can see lots of flowers and trees growing. And the weather, the temperature is mild, so you can experience uh, comfortable temperatures around 15 degrees. I'm talking about Brazil, but here we have something like that, not extreme temperatures. So comfortable for me, it's comfortable around 20 and 15 degrees Celsius.
Okay. What would you say is the worst weather you've ever experienced?
Well, I've never experienced worst or extreme conditions. I mean, like twist or tsunamis, something very dangerous. But I've had just snow, and especially in my city, in my hometown in the south of Brazil, we have already had snow and temperatures below 0 degrees, so it's pretty normal in the winter.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you said snow. That's not very descriptive. What are some other ways to describe snow? What are some good descriptive words?
Ice conditions, something like that.
No. To
Freezing,
describe snow, not ice.
freezing, cold,
Okay, cold is good. Snow is cold.
yes, and snowy.
Snowy. Okay. What else can we use to describe snow? Think of adjectives.
Mm,
Snowflake.
cloudy.
Oh, just a minute. Let me pick on Raphael for a minute. You'll each get a turn, guys. Okay, so think of words to describe snow. We're talking about adjectives here. I know this is not a grammar class, but it's still good. What do you think of when you think of snow?
Colder temperatures.
Cold, yeah, so it's cold. How about white?
Light.
Things are very white when it snows.
Yes, yes, it is white.
Let's take a look at a picture of a snowstorm here, or after a snowstorm. Look at that. It's like a blanket of white snow has covered the land. Okay. All right, very good, Raphael. Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Noelia,
Yes.
what is the weather like today?
The weather today is actually is average, is normal. Here we are. Well, it's late at night, so I'm going to talk in the past. The day was warm, yeah, and mild. Um, it was probably well, it was cloudy, but warm. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Now let me ask you the same question I'm asking everybody else. What is the worst weather that you have experienced?
The worst weather that I have ever had, probably when I traveled to the Pyrenees.
Are these mountains the Pyrenees?
Yeah, yeah. I went um, to practice snowboarding. That was the first time that I saw snow. So that was for me the worst weather that I've experienced, but it wasn't that bad. So
Okay, that's good that that's the worst weather you've experienced.
yeah.
Right, thank you very much. All right, now I get back to my screen so I can see who's next. Ivan, tell me, what is the weather like today?
Today it's mostly cloudy. In the morning, when I woke up, I could look out of my window. I see a little mist from on the forest. Yeah, I think it's going to be rainy on the evening. I mean, it's gonna be a heavy rain.
Would you say you can see a light fog covering the lowlands?
Yes.
Okay, light fog.
It's like a misty, foggy.
Yeah, it's usually sometimes in the morning in summer, if it was cold at night, you might have fog in the low-lying areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very good. And what is the worst weather you've ever experienced?
I think it was last year. It was all month with a heavy rain, with a cyclone passing over that was flooding the towns and some part of the country.
What's a cyclone?
Excuse me?
What's a cyclone?
I don't know. I don't even remember.
But you said you saw one.
Yeah, it was a cyclone. I don't know. It was the Niña, the Niño, something like that.
Okay, so, well, let me show you guys an image because we're going to get into some very, very technical language here. This is more advanced language, okay? So if we look at this image here, what we're seeing is a high pressure system here and a low pressure system here. And these systems, as you can see, are characterized by spinning air or cyclonic air. A low pressure system is characterized by downward spinning air that's going counterclockwise. And a high pressure system, oh wait a minute, they've got both, that's wrong. You can't have a high and a low going in the same direction. This is a bad image. Right, well, a high pressure system is upward moving air. So air is moving upwards, whereas a low pressure system is air coming down. Now I'm going to pick on David and ask David, when we think of clear blue skies, are we usually under a high pressure system or a low pressure system?
Actually, I don't know.
Does anybody know?
Yeah, high pressure system.
Would that be the pilot in the room?
Yeah, that would be a high pressure system for sure.
And why is that important to know?
Why? What do you mean?
Well, for example, if we're going on a vacation or we're traveling and we hear that the area there's a high pressure system moving in, is that good, or would we rather
Sí,
know
es
that there's a
una
low
clase.
pressure system?
¿Cómo?
Mira la clase.
What was that? Well, the high pressure is pretty good if you hear about it, because it's related to good visibility, stratiform clouds, not really related to rain. But a
Right.
low pressure system is backwards. It's really bad weather.
Yeah. So keep this in mind, guys. If you ever look at a weather map and you can see that a low pressure system is coming your way, that usually means bad weather. It usually means windy weather, rain. If you're in a high pressure, it usually means no wind and clear skies. All right. So enough of that technical stuff. All right, let's go on to Daniel, who's already talked a little bit. Daniel, as a pilot or pilot in training or a graduated pilot, can you explain or tell us some of the worst weather you've encountered?
Well, here there's no tornadoes, hurricanes, things like that in Colombia, so it's pretty uncommon. The most weirdest thing that you will encounter in flight is volcanic ash, I think, or maybe freezing drizzle or freezing rain.
Well, if I was a pilot, I'd be more concerned about volcanic ash.
Yeah, of course. That
Why
will
is
turn off
volcanic ash bad, especially if you're in a jet plane?
You will have flame out in the engines. The engines will stop.
Okay, there's the word flame out you guys aren't going to hear very often. What that essentially means is the engines stop, right?
Of course.
So engine stopping is a bad thing because most commercial jets aren't really known for their gliding abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're big and they drop pretty quickly. All right, Daniel, thank you. Anton, what is some of the weirdest weather that you've encountered? Anton, what is some of the weirdest weather that you've encountered? All right, let's move on. Anton, what is the weirdest weather that, or Antonio, what is the weirdest weather that you've encountered? Okay, neither Anton is speaking.
Me, Antonio?
Yes, please.
Okay. The bad weather.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was traveling with my friends, and I remember a snowstorm. We are really travel. We were really travel without enough clothes, and we weren't prepared for this kind of situation. And we are climbed a mountain, and there were a snowstorm with a lot of wind and so cold, and was funny but so difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I've been in some pretty heavy snowstorms myself where it hasn't stopped snowing for almost 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now there was for only for the night, and the other in the morning was good.
Okay, Abel, what's some of the worst weather that you've encountered?
Okay, it was once we are celebrating Christmas, and in the middle of the night it began to rain a lot for almost two entire days with a heavy rain. We were at my home, and we were almost uh, full of water inside the house. It was a uh, really frightening.
Great, thank you very much. All right, guys, what I've done now is I've opened up Google Drive. And inside Google Drive, if you click on Hangout Notes, you'll see that I'm listing a whole bunch of vocabulary related to weather. Okay, and we're going to go through some of these words. We've already covered up a lot of them just talking about the weather and the worst weather we've encountered. So we all know what snow is. However, there are many different words to describe snow. Would anybody like to try and guess at some of the words used to describe snow?
Snowflake.
Right? Snowflake.
Slush
Slush. What is slush?
is the snow melted.
Yeah, it's snow that has partially melted.
Yeah.
Okay? It's very slippery. It's horrible. It's just horrible. Okay. Other words that help describe snow.
Frozen water.
Okay. Frozen. Do you guys know what glaciers are made out of? What's a glacier made out of, guys? Noelia, what's a glacier made out of?
It's made out of ice.
You would think it's made out of ice. Most of them are ice, but they're not made out of ice.
Earth plus ice? I don't know.
There is air in them, but no. Let me ask Raphael with a P. Raphael, what are glaciers made out of?
I think it's a, how can I say, it's a huge amount of ice over rocky structure, not a rocky structure, but it's a, I think it's a great amount of ice, normally located in Arctic Ocean or
Let me ask
Antarctica.
a different way, because I think you guys are misunderstanding the question. How are glaciers formed? Not what is their composition. Okay, so how does a glacier form?
My hailstones.
Close, but no, not hailstones. Something smaller than hailstones.
Crystals.
Zero.
Sorry?
Water crystals. Frozen water crystals.
Okay, they're frozen water crystals, but what do we call frozen water crystals?
Snow.
Hail.
Yeah, snow.
Snow.
Okay, so glaciers are made up of snow. That's it. So if you look at a glacier, let me see if I can get a picture of one for you. So if you see here, you'll see there's different lines. Okay? And these lines represent snowfalls. In very, very cold areas, it'll snow, but then when the summer comes, not all of it melts. Next year, more snow comes. The snow from the previous year has become a little more crystallized, not as soft, The year below that, it becomes even more crystallized, and then eventually the pressure and the previous year's melt turns it into ice. But it all starts off as snow. We had an awful lot of snow here this year where I live, and we had freezing rain. And what happened is, unlike other years, is at the end of the season, instead of having a lot of snow left, we had a lot of ice. We had a good foot of ice at the bottom of our snowpack, and that's rare. Okay, excellent. So frozen snow over time turns into a glacier. A blizzard. Does anybody know what a blizzard is?
It's like related to wind.
Yeah, it is. So if you live in a cold climate in the far north or in the far south, what happens is if you have high winds and cold temperatures, you have a blizzard. And we call, what they tend to look like is this. We have something called a whiteout. Okay, it's another word for a blizzard. It's a whiteout. It may not be snowing, but you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Let me see if I've got a picture of a whiteout.
Snowstorm, is it the same as a blizzard?
No, because you see, a blizzard does not require there to be any snow falling.
No, okay. It's
Right.
more like the windy part.
Yeah, it's really wind and temperature, so it needs to be cold, but it has to be windy, and I think there's an actual textbook definition on how fast the wind is and how cold it is, but you want to think of a blizzard as being very cold and very windy.
Okay.
So here's a picture of what a whiteout would look like, or a blizzard.
Is it more than gusts?
It's, yeah, these are winds that are sustained at 20 kilometers an hour or more.
Constantly.
So you might have a gust of wind going up to 40, but the winds must be sustained at around 20 kilometers an hour for a considerable period of time.
So it is constantly. It is not.
Constant.
It's not gust. Yes.
Yeah. So that brings us to the word wind. There's different words to use to describe wind. Okay? We could have a gust of wind. What's another word we could use to describe wind? Raphael with an F.
Windy. Windy.
Okay, windy.
Yes.
Anything else?
Gusty.
Gusty.
Breeze?
Yeah, excellent. Breeze. There's another one. What is a breeze?
It's a light wind.
Yeah, it's a very light wind. A light breeze. A warm breeze. It's something pleasant.
Aeolian?
Hurricane force winds. Those are not fun. Sorry, somebody said something. What's the word?
Aeolian?
Could you type that? I'm not familiar with that word.
Gale.
Oh, gale. Yeah, gale force winds. Those aren't fun either. Okay. Now, we don't really need to say snowstorm. Let's just talk about storm. Many different types of storms. What are different types of storms that we can have, guys? Let's think. What are different storms? Ivan.
Thunderstorm.
Thunder.
A thunderstorm.
Lightning.
Sandstorm.
Okay, so lightning and thunderstorm.
Sandstorm. Also.
Sorry, that last one?
Sandstorm.
Yeah, sandstorm. These are very, very popular in places of the world like China or the Middle East, Mongolia. Okay, we also have electrical storms. Have you guys ever heard electrical storms?
Yeah. You
What's an
mean with a lot of lightning, or?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just another way of saying a lightning storm. When you hear thunder, you know there must be lightning. You can't have one without the other. Actually, no, that's not true. And the pilot is just about to correct me, right, Daniel?
No, no. Why?
You can, in the southern U.S., I've experienced lightning storms where there's no thunder. You just see the lights go off.
Yeah, actually, that can happen.
Yeah, so weather is strange. So we have thunderstorms, lightning, electrical, sandstorms, hailstorms. What's a solar storm? Never heard of that one.
A what?
Solar storm.
Solar.
When the sun
Yeah.
when the sun emits waves, it can affect satellites and
Oh,
communication.
you're Mr. Fancy. You're talking about space weather. Okay. Okay, so I'll add space weather. We'll come back to that one in a little bit. For storms, though, I want to keep space weather out of it. But excellent, Raphael. Okay, Anton, or sorry, let's see. I can't remember who doesn't have their microphone working. Antonio, can you think of any other storms that we have?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Antonio, what are some other storms that we can have?
Oh, I don't know.
Snowstorms.
I'm not speaking because I don't know really well the field.
Well, then I really recommend you take notes, okay? Because we're going to go through a lot of different weather vocabulary.
Okay.
So space weather, Raphael, this is a very good topic. Most people think space weather doesn't affect us. Can you give a brief description of what space weather is and how it does affect us?
Well, the weather, the current weather, the standard, the common weather we have here on Earth, it's strongly influenced by space weather, since solar winds and not only the sun but also the moon can affect our weather in some way, in some situations. Some ancient civilizations use the position of planets to determine the weather and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll talk about a couple of things. Raphael brought up some very good points here. So you all have, I imagine, a cell phone or a smartphone. You all have electricity. Well, did you know that the sun can put out weather that can actually shut down our power? Did you know about this, Noelia?
No, I didn't.
In I think it was 89, there was what is called a CME. It stands for coronal mass ejection. And basically it's when the sun ejects a whole bunch of its atmosphere. Okay? It hits the Earth, and then in the north we see these bright colors called the northern lights. If the radiation from the sun is strong enough, what it can do is shut down our power grid. Isn't that right, Raphael?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I read about this story. There was a huge blackout in Canada where I live.
That's the one I'm talking about.
I think it was in Quebec, I think.
Not just Quebec, but yeah. So NASA actually has satellites monitoring space weather, so we can be prepared for such events. So yeah, there's space weather, and also the moon it affects our tides. So for those of you close to the ocean, those tides are caused by the moon. Again, space
Yeah,
weather.
I'm well aware of that. And also the waves, the time of the year, then they are braver or stronger than usual.
Yeah, so very good. Yeah, so there is space weather. Thank you very much for that, Raphael. Now let's talk about rain. Abel, can you describe different ways of describing rain? What kind of rain can we have?
Oh, heavy rain, light rain. I don't know. Summer storms of rain a lot. I don't know. I really don't think about different kind of rains until now.
Well, for a man who doesn't know rain, you've come up with a good 3 adjectives. So we have light rain, heavy rain, and torrential rain. Okay, torrential being the heaviest. We also have showers. If you guys asked what was the weather like today, I'd say, oh, we had a few showers. That means it rained a bit, but it wasn't very heavy. But since nobody asked me what we did, I'll tell you, or asked me, I'll tell you what kind of weather we had today. We had periods of heavy rain mixed in with light rain. Okay? Okay, so there's 4 adjectives to describe rain.
Drizzle is another one.
Okay, Drizzle. And a question about short. Who asked the question?
Me, Antonio. I asked you if the flower is the rain the short duration or doesn't matter?
Showers can be short to medium in duration.
But so hard.
Yeah, generally it's not hard.
Not hard. Okay.
Generally, if we were going to say it rained all day, we would just say it rained all day, or we had 3 days of rain. But showers, you don't generally think it's going to be lasting a long time, and drizzle is spelled wrong. Sorry about that.
Yes, for example, in tropical areas or touristic beach, there are maybe a strong rain for an hour, for example. I don't know, in Brazil, maybe, I don't know. This is a flower or is another kind of rain?
No, that's torrential rain.
Okay. Torrential.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other words for rain, guys? Can any of you think of other words for rain?
Spot with rain.
Sorry?
Spot with rain.
Spots of rain? Okay.
Yeah, it's like when it rains a few drops, right?
Yeah, spot of rain.
Freezing drizzle, also. Freezing rain.
Acid.
Wow, you guys are really brilliant today. A spot of rain, a couple of drops of rain. Acid rain. Did I miss any?
There is a kind of rain over the sea that comes together with the clouds, and I don't know how we can say that phenomenon. It's when the rain make a contact with the sea.
I don't know the special word for it. To me, it would still just be rain, though. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. Tornado and twister. They're the same thing. What are they? All right. Ivan, what's a tornado?
I think it has to be with high pressure, low pressure, and when these two forces convey, they create a twister.
Well, it's definitely associated with a low pressure system. And maybe Daniel can help us a bit more. So Daniel is associated with a low pressure system. What else is associated with a tornado?
Cumulonimbus clouds, maybe. High velocities, high surface velocities, high surface wind velocities.
Okay, we're getting very
Maybe
technical here, aren't we, guys? But just bear with me. Keep going, Daniel.
A high level of humidity.
Okay. All right, so this is very technical. Places where these are very popular are in the United States, from Texas all the way up into Saskatchewan. They're very popular in the summer when you have high heat, rapidly rising air. Okay? You need to have storm clouds. In particular, I spelt those wrong, but cumulonimbus clouds. How do I spell that? Hold on a minute. That's spelled very wrong. So it needs a certain type of storm cloud. It's usually associated with heavy rain. It usually is very windy. Not nimbostratus. Let me see here. I'm looking for a certain type. I haven't spelt this word in a long time. I forget how to spell them. Here we go. Okay. These things are very destructive. Winds can reach well over 300 kilometers an hour. They're dangerous. You need to seek shelter. All right, hurricane, typhoon, and cyclone. Who can tell me what these are? All right, Noelia, what is a cyclone?
Oh no, I wanted to ask, what is there any difference between a tornado and a twister?
No, twister is just another name for a tornado.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay.
A cyclone, I think that it is similar to a tornado, but with water, like very like heavy rainstorm.
Okay, well, it's definitely heavy rains. Okay. Let's talk about cyclone. Now, people sometimes get these mixed up with typhoon and hurricane, but a cyclone generally is a system of rotating winds. Okay, associated with a low pressure system. It's counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere or clockwise in the southern hemisphere. They rotate, okay? But in the north, they're counterclockwise, okay? But people also use it to refer to a tropical storm. So this is where this one gets a little confusing, okay? We can use it to refer to a typhoon, and a typhoon is essentially the same thing as a hurricane, but a typhoon is usually limited to the Indian Ocean. Okay, a typhoon is a tropical storm in the area of the Indian Ocean or the Western Pacific. A hurricane is formed over the Gulf of Mexico up into the United States. Rarely do they come into Canada, but they start from tropical storms coming from Africa, and if they build up speed, they turn into hurricanes. What do all these storms have in common, Daniel?
Which one do you mean?
A typhoon or a hurricane? What do they have in common?
Well, they are low pressure systems, I think.
Low pressure systems, and they offer sunny weather with wonderful light breezes, right?
Yeah, but also it depends of the velocity, the main characteristic.
You just agreed with me and I said a false thing. These offer gale force winds.
When
Think of a tornado that is 1,000 miles wide. That's a good way of looking at a hurricane. They're very big. They have high winds that can go into the hundreds of miles an hour, heavy rains, and they cause a lot of destruction. They can cause floods. Have you guys heard of a storm surge? Raphael with a P, have you heard of a storm surge?
No, no, never.
Okay, well, have you ever heard of flooding when a hurricane comes?
Yes.
Okay. That is because the low pressure system is so high in the hurricane that sea level rises underneath it. So as the hurricane moves inland, it drags a bunch of water with it, and that we call a storm surge.
Okay.
All right. So our last activity of the class, I'm going to go around the room, and I want you to each describe the worst storm you've ever heard using vocabulary that we've worked on in the class. Abel, can you tell me about the worst storm you've ever heard?
Yes, it was one night when I was driving with my wife we from one place to another, 100 kilometers almost, and it was rainy again, very torrentially, and it was impossible 1 or 2 meters ahead, and I was afraid to stop my car because I was afraid to be crushed by another car behind me. So I tried to guess the path and try to go on. And
All right, thank you.
fortunately, I arrived safely.
All right, thank you. Ahmed, please describe the worst storm you've ever heard of. Ahmed thought he could sneak into class and have me not notice.
Yeah, because the class was full. That's why. Okay. Mm, I'm not sure, but probably I heard months ago something happened in UK, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know really how strong it was, but some houses. I don't know that. Yeah, that storm affected some houses and
Heavy
took.
rain?
I don't remember. It wasn't rain really. It was storm. That winds. That's what I mean. That affected some houses and took some roofs off.
Not a lot of fun. High winds are never fun. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Anton.
Hello.
Yes,
Can
please
you hear me
describe.
now?
Yes, I can. Please describe some of the worst weather you've ever heard of.
Yes, it was some years ago when I was a child, and it was in the north of Spain, in which we can find a climate similar to British Iceland, because we are in Galicia, in, in the confluence between Atlantic and Cantabric Sea. And we can find sometimes big torrency waters and rain, and if the clouds were turning into a dark night, in the middle, in the midday. It was absolutely dark, and it started to a big thunderstorm with big lights, and it was scary because we are in the coast, and suddenly a big wave beats the water too, and it was for me. It was scary because it was silent. It was too difficult to fight.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be. Thank you very much. Antonio, please describe the worst weather you've ever heard of.
Okay. I was younger and I went to visit my grandma. First it started to rain and so good, but then the wind started to go faster and faster, and I don't know how many kilometers, but so fast until the roof of her house blew, and we wait some time, and then when I go outside, we saw that a lot of cars was moved and a lot of roof of the house was due. And this was my worst experience.
Okay, not fun. Daniel, your worst or the worst experience you've ever heard of, weather related.
Well, the worst word I ever heard of was I'm in Japan, but I don't know too much about that. So the worst weather I ever experienced was once when I was about to fly, but I didn't because it was windy, gusting. There was a heavy thunderstorm,
Mm-hmm.
cumulonimbus clouds, an overcast layer, broken layer also. But the worst thing was cumulonimbus mammatus. There is a like the mother of the cumulonimbus. It's
Looks like a
pretty
huge
risky.
anvil, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
they're scary
involves
clouds.
yeah, it involves ice pellets, ice crystals that are very dangerous to an airplane.
All right, thank you. Ivan, the worst weather you've ever heard of, please.
The worst weather. Okay, it was a draw last year, and I heard that a lot of animals uh, get starved and died because of it. And it was happening like 3 months straight. So it was difficult to from people getting in agricultural or swindle businesses to get rid of it.
All right, thank you very much. Noelia, the worst weather you've ever heard of.
Mm, the worst weather, well, according to me, I think that the worst weather um, is electric storm
Mm-hmm.
because you know that that's very scary and for on the one hand you can see and it scares you just by seeing it, and also because you can yeah you can you can have an electric shock. Is it right?
You can be
Like,
electrocuted.
yeah. I think that for me that's the worst thing that I could experience.
Right, thank you. Raphael, what is the worst weather you have ever heard of?
Well, in 2004 in Brazil, we had a hurricane. It's not a hurricane, it's a cyclone because in the tropical area. His name was Katarina. It's not Katrina, but Katarina.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very devastating because destroyed a lot of houses and buildings, and it was in my state near my city. in 2004, and I just realized, because as you said in your explanation, the forecast conditions was that low pressure in a huge area in my state, so the eye of the cyclone came near the coast of the cities, so reached a large area, and it was really devastating. Yes, it was a shame. It was
Wow, sorry
really,
to hear that. All
yes.
right, last, Raphael with a P, the worst weather you have ever heard of.
In January 2011, there was a huge, massive torrential rain here, and it led, and it brought lots of landsliding, and lots of people have died. Near 1,000 people have died in this rain, and it left lots of others homeless and without nothing to live. So it was really, it was it was a really problematic. It was complicated to deal with this whole destruction.
That's horrible. It really is.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you my story now, but just before I do, for those of you that are new to my class, if you want to visit verbling.com/teachers/Simon, I just pasted the link there. You can see when the next 6 classes start in your local time on the date and time. So the date and time in your local time, it shows up on that page. You can click follow me if you want to get reminders as to when it's starting. Okay, so this happened actually this January, or it was late December. I think it was late December, just before Christmas. We had 3 days of rain, but this was freezing rain. That means that when it hit a surface, it froze. We had as much as 2 centimeters of ice hanging off everything. Hundreds of thousands of people lost power and didn't have power until almost the new year. So it was pretty bad. We were lucky where I lived. We were one of the few islands of power, and everybody around us didn't have power. In one of the coldest winters ever, not having power is pretty bad, especially when your wife is pregnant. But she's not pregnant anymore, so no worries. I do apologize, guys. We went over a little long today, but I wanted to take time to have you guys talk using some of the words you already knew, which we did at the beginning. Then I wanted to introduce new words, and then have us talk about weather systems again. I'm going to be introducing more vocabulary lessons coming up because I think these are a good way to help remind us of the different types of words to describe things. We all know about rain, snow, and wind. But as you guys saw from this class, there's many other adjectives that a native English speaker will use. So I will offer classes in movies, TV shows, business, investments, talking about these types of vocabulary too. And of course, my aim is to get you guys talking most of the time. That's important. You don't need to hear me lecture you the whole time. I will help with pronunciation though as well. Thank you so much for attending. I do hope to see you again soon. This is my last class today, but I do hope to see you tomorrow. Ahmed, what I'm noticing right now, and I know you had trouble getting in, but apparently, I don't know if classes are reaching more people, but my classes seem to be reserving or being full a lot sooner.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, so if you know you're going to be able to make it to a class, check it about an hour or two ahead of time. It's rare that my classes are filled up a day ahead of time. This class, about 30 minutes before it started, still had 3 spots available. So if you guys know you're going to take a class, reserve a seat, and you're guaranteed a spot in class. Any last questions before we end class? All right, guys. Have yourself a wonderful evening, morning, or afternoon, depending on where you are.
You too,
Thank you.
Simon.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care,
Nice to meet
guys.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.